Welcome to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the podcast that provides you with the knowledge and insights you need to achieve physical, mental, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Harlan Pickett, a business consultant who's passionate about helping people achieve a more balanced and healthier life. Each week, we'll deep dive into topics related to health and wealth, including retirement income planning, innovative healthcare solutions, alternative funded health plans, and specific actions individuals and business owners can take to gain control of their finances, have access to affordable quality health care, and achieve peace of mind. We'll also be joined by innovative experts who will share their knowledge and insights on prevalent topics. So, whether you're looking to grow your wealth or improve your health, you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Let's get started. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a super exciting Health and Wealth Power Hour. I am your host, Harlan Pickett. Great to have you with us today. We are really going to touch on a very, very deep subject today. And I know that's not like me, right? But you guys know we have touched on a number of different things over the years, and all of them are about your health or wealth. But your health, as we know, what's going on in the United States today is so much of your health is mental as well. And your mental stability, the way that you look at things, the way you feel about things, the way you feel about other people, they can have such a tremendous impact on your overall health because it's all tied together. Your physical health and your mental health, without a doubt, are tied very deeply together. And people are finding that out more and more. Since COVID, we've seen more and more people look at mental health and not be afraid to talk about it. Well, we're going to talk about something today that everyone struggles with, but we have someone with us that has a very innovative approach to that. We're talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness, as the old saying says, can set you free. But man, it can sure be hard, especially when someone has done something that many people would deem unforgivable. So we are super excited today to be talking to Katharine Giovanni. She's a 3-time award-winning best-selling author, and she is one of the original founders of Concierge. Hey, everyone knows what Concierge is, right? What a cool deal. In the concierge industry, she is a trendsetter. She also has a very recent book. It is called The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Thank you so very much for being with us today, Katharine. Welcome aboard Health and Wealth Power Hour.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So we talked a little bit before we started recording the podcast today. You have a very unique thing. You've promised us a very unique take on forgiveness, but you also have a story of your own that how you got there. You're a cancer survivor. You had a pretty rough childhood as well. So forgiveness and being through trials is not something that's new to you. You didn't just wake up one day after this perfectly beautiful life and say, I know, let's just forgive everyone, never having suffered the possibilities and the realities of people having done you wrong, or you even feel like you've been cheated. Because I know a lot of cancer survivors or people who fought cancer feel they've been cheated in life because why me? Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about your journey before you actually get into the steps of what forgiveness looks like.
Well, I come from a pretty dysfunctional, pickled background, alcoholics, all the things that comes with. I was bullied in school, tried to commit suicide in the 8th grade. So I turned into one of those teenagers, you know who I'm talking about, draped in black, one friend, that kind of thing. And I kind of floated through life for a while because I was angry. I was really angry, and I had very few friends because I was so angry. So in the late 1980s, I am that old, my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she dried out, and we sent her to rehab, and we spent 3 beautiful years with each other, and we got to know each other. We became friends. We forgave. And then she died. And I knew she died of cancer. So I knew that if I didn't change my life, I was going to die too. So I quit drinking. I've been sober now for 34 years. And in those programs, it tells you to forgive. You have to reach out. You have to make amends. Okay, I was shy, like really shy. Now I'm what they call an extroverted introvert now, and I can turn it on and off at will, but it took me years to get this way. But everybody listening right now, and I am a breast cancer survivor, but everybody listening right now, when you hear the word forgiveness on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable, horrific dumpster fire, and 1 being a super easy person to forgive, everybody, including you, my friend, are thinking of your number 10 person. And that's the problem. We immediately think of the number 10 person. We don't want to forgive that person because we think we're giving them a pass. So since you were a kid, everybody is saying you have to forgive and forget. Okay, how? I'm serious. How? Nobody teaches you how. And then they say, well, when you forgive, you'll forget. No. There might be a unicorn human being on the planet someplace living a happy life who can forget these things. I'm not that person. So what I can offer you is a very unique way of forgiving people and letting them stay forgiven. Hello. And you're not going to forget. Let's be clear. But my system will remove the emotional charge. So you could go back to that memory and it will not bother you anymore.
So we probably all know somebody who has experienced and truly forgiven somebody for something that we're like,
Right.
man, I don't know how that person did that.
Oh, we've all said it.
And I do have a good friend that was shot in a carjacking and was very lost for a number of years after that, very angry, obviously.
Okay.
And her forgiveness journey started whenever she began a relationship, as in getting to know the person who assaulted her. And she still visits that gentleman in prison and, has helped him change his life. Whenever I heard her story, I was just shocked, right? I was just shocked. She took the time to sit down with him and listen to his story of how he got there, of what got him from, his childhood, of his things that happened to him to the point where he was at her car window shooting her, and his journey. And that, just hearing his story also helped her have some empathy for what he had been through. And so I thought that was a very interesting thing. And she does now a lot of different work in prisons and in things. And she has recently started her own charity to start working with people that have been victims of crime, to help them through that, because she's been through it herself. But I thought that was a very interesting take on that. And I'll be honest, I don't know how she could do it. I don't know. But I very much applaud her for her strength and her ability to do that.
There are I call those people unicorns.
Yeah.
And there are a certain percentage of humanity are unicorns. We don't know how they do it, but they're beautiful people, and they have this wonderful knack of forgiving and really meaning it. But for the rest of us humans on the planet, I don't think I could do that. I wrote the book on forgiveness, and I'm not sure I could do it. And I've been accused of being a unicorn. But in my world, what I really want you to do is, well, let me be clear. Let's back up. First of all, if I forgive you, it doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. Okay? Now I'm going to take the stress out of everybody's bodies. You don't have to reach out and talk to them. There you go. Forgiveness in my world is selfish. You do it for you. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to tell anybody you've done it. You do it in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know. There, all the stress is gone. If the person has passed away, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where they are or are not. You're forgiving for you, not them. If I forgive you, it doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass. It does not mean you were right. You're still wrong. I still probably don't like you. But what forgiveness means to me, the formal definition for me, is I want you out of my head. I don't want to think about you. I want the memory gone. And if the memory does pop up in conversation, I don't want it to trigger me. That's what forgiveness means. It's selfish. So in my system, I want you to start with the easy ones. On that 10 scale, with 10 being horrible, I want you to start with the number ones. I want you to start with that kid who stole your paper in school, the person who cut you off in aisle 5 of the grocery store, the other person who stole your sandwich at lunch at the office. I hope you can forgive that person. They were hungry, right? The easy person at the gas station just 2 days ago when I was just coming from the dentist and I said, "Have a nice day, ma'am." And she said, "Oh, fancy chance of that." And I thought, okay, you're having a really good day. And for whatever reason, I got in my car and I did my forgiveness mantra because I just thought I don't need her bad day to stick on me like sticky paper. These are the easy ones. And as you forgive the easy ones, you're going to start to feel better. And why? Because right now you're so focused on your anger that you're not paying attention to the world around you. And if you are paying attention, you might be paying attention to the negative stuff, which is not going to help you. But if you start to forgive, you're going to start seeing opportunities, that perfect job that you've been wanting, that perfect spouse you've been dreaming about, the perfect home, the relationship, more money, losing weight. Why? Because you're focused on other things besides your hate. Now, I've had this conversation with people, and one podcaster said, well, hate is my gasoline. It fuels my car. It's why I get up in the morning. Hate and anger is why I can do what I do. Okay, that's fair. And it got you very far. But you're on the local road and on the local train. And if you use love and forgiveness, it's going to get you there faster with less pain.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I just was like, whenever you were talking about that, because, man, I actually have a lot of sorrow in my heart and empathy for someone who lets, hate drive them. I mean, I understand.
My father was like that.
To a certain degree that some people say that gives them an edge or whatever. I mean, I've heard even athletes say, I hate everyone on the field, right? We can be friends, but not during the game. I got to kill you then or whatever.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, I would much rather have love in my heart. And
crazily enough, that athlete, if you want to become the best in the business, hate will get you only so far.
Yeah.
And love will get you all the way. Love and forgiveness is going to take you to places that you can only imagine right now. Because the person you came down to this planet to be, this is a little hoodoo for you, but it is what it is. The person you came down and you were born to be will finally come out. And that person isn't coming out because it's being blocked by this big brick wall of hate and bitterness. So once you remove the hate and bitterness, that person is going to come out, and it's going to take you where you need to go. But losing your story is hard. It's who you are. It becomes your identity. When I finally lost my story, it was hard because who am I without my story?
Yeah.
Scary. But imagine what you could do if you lose the story. You're going to be a brand new person.
How many times do you think that the person who needs to be forgiven is yourself? That, the situation you have found yourself in, the hate that you have, it's really a hatred of yourself and who you've become. Is it harder for people then to forgive themselves than it is other people? What if the 10? What if the 10 is you?
If the 10 is you, and it's for many people, yourself is the hardest person to forgive. So let's talk about number 10s, even if it's you or not you. The special sauce to my whole method, and I have a whole chapter in science to back myself up, is energy. The reason people don't stay forgiven is because you didn't forgive the energy. Einstein proved without a shadow of a doubt that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms into something else. He proved it. So when you get angry, what do you think happens? It leaves your mouth and goes out into the distance like your breath and dissipates in the clouds? It does not. It hangs in your energy field until you clear it through forgiveness. And you're kind of attracting people in your life who are like-minded to you. So you're probably attracting people who are angry and have had a bad life because they're attracted to your energy, because that's where you are. As you forgive, and in my method, you don't have to burn incense unless you want to. You don't have to dance on one foot or hold a crystal unless you want to. Don't email me. If you want to do it, knock yourself out. But it's a very, very simple prayer. And I forgive the person, the energy around the person, myself, and the energy around me. There was a study done in Japan. It's called the Japanese Water Study by a guy named Matsumoto. And you can Google it. It's right online, and the pictures are just stunning. He took 2 containers of water, pretty much. One container of water, he actually spoke words to, and he said nice things to it. He told it he loved the water. The other container of water, he said nasty things, the world's most awful things to the other container. Then he put it under a microscope. The water that he put under the microscope that was negative had these black and brown sludgy formations. And the water he spoke love to had these beautiful crystalline formations. The pictures are really stunning. Why am I telling you this? Your body is 98% water. So when your self-talk is negative and when you're angry and bitter, what do you think you're doing to the cells in your body? That's the how behind anger is toxic. You're literally changing your body chemistry. So by changing your body chemistry back and allowing those cells to clear themselves, you're actually changing your body, you're getting healthier, and you're going to be able to see new opportunities.
So that does correlate with what we talked about earlier about mental health, right? Your mental health, and you're beating yourself up, or your non-forgiveness of others, you carrying those weights, whatever that is, as it beats you down. Or as you had mentioned earlier, so many people now get triggered by everything, right? It's just everything bothers them so much that they just almost crawl up in this shell. And now they're in such a mentally unstable place that their physical health starts being affected.
That person right there, the mentally unstable person. Let's talk about that person. In my world, I want you to create a list of people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Stay with me. And then I want you to number them 1 to 10. And you can have 5 number 5s and 4 number 4. It doesn't matter. I don't care I don't care, right? And then obviously I want you to start with the 1s and work your way up to the list. But when you get to those higher numbers, when you get to the people that are 8s, 9s, and 10s, you may not be able to forgive that person. And that's completely fair. It might be so unforgivable that maybe it's not even appropriate for you to forgive them. I'm the only one that's going to look you in the eye and say, you don't have to forgive the unforgivable, because you don't. There's other things within that memory that you can forgive. Einstein proved that everything on our planet, even inanimate objects like my coffee cup, has energy around it. So you go into that memory of whatever horrific thing happened to you, and you forgive other things in the memory. And forgiveness is like an onion. We're going to peel back the layers of the onion slowly, one by one. So let's say you were pushed in the playground as a kid. It's unforgivable, and you've kind of carried it for years, right? And it's kind of weird that a 60-something-year-old woman is getting upset to something that happened in grammar school. It's ridiculous, right? It's totally ridiculous, but it's still in your head. It's like a movie playing in the back of your head that you don't even know is there, and it's affecting your entire life. So you go back to that memory. Okay, maybe you don't want to forgive the person who pushed you or whatever it was, but you can forgive the energy around the school, the building, your desk, the chair, the bed, the table, the playground, and you forgive the energy around these things. You forgive yourself for anything you may or may not have done and the energy around it. And I promise you'll feel better. And then you wait 24, 48 hours and you keep going. If you can never forgive the person who's a number 10, even if that's fine. And if the person is you, I want you to do the same thing. Whatever memory is tripping you up, I just want you to go into that memory and forgive other things in the memory, other places, other things. And just keep going until you're comfortable enough to maybe forgive yourself. And if you can't even do that, then I want you to start with the words, I forgive myself for not being able to forgive. And the energy around it. Just start there. It's a place to start. That in itself will make you feel better.
So this process, and I'm glad you said that last part, because I think people inherently have a time, especially if they remember something that happened, whether it was their fault or not their fault. I mean, I know a lot of times we blame ourselves for things that wasn't our fault at all, but it's just easier to blame ourselves, right? A lot of times. How do we board down to that though? Or does it even matter? If we're in the forgiveness mood, does it matter whose fault it was? Do we have to place fault? Do we have to say, I'm able to forgive this because I know at the end it was my fault, or it wasn't my fault? Does that even matter?
Sometimes it takes some Simone Biles level mental gymnastics to get you to forgiveness. And if that thought is what finally gets you to forgiveness, I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. You want to clear it. You want them out of your head. When you go on Facebook or social media, or you go to Thanksgiving and you look at this person or you look at this person's name, you don't want that emotional charge. You don't want it to push your buttons. So let's take Thanksgiving, for example, and we'll use my fictitious Aunt Martha. I didn't have an Aunt Martha, but I did have a few very much like Aunt Martha. And every year, your parents stick you next to Aunt Martha. She's negative. She pushes your buttons, and you can't stand it. You end up fighting, and you've begged and pleaded with your parents to please stop sitting me next to Aunt Martha, and yet you find yourself sitting next to Aunt Martha. Okay, so what do? All right, I want you to, before you go to Thanksgiving, I want you to forgive Aunt Martha. And because this has gone on for many years, Aunt Martha, it's probably not a 10, but it's probably a 5 or a 6. She's in your head, Yeah. So I want you to forgive Aunt Martha. I want you to forgive the energy around Aunt Martha. Wait 24 hours. And then if you're still angry and you still think it's a number 5, and I have worksheets and all sorts of stuff in the book, but if you still think it's worth it, then okay, forgive the other people at the table. Forgive the table, the chair. Forgive the other parts of those memories. Pick out other Thanksgivings and forgive them. And what is this going to do when you finally meet Aunt Martha face to face? Okay, she's not going to bother you as much. She's going to continue to spew out hate. She's going to continue to try and push your buttons, but you're not going to care. You're just not going to care. Now, I've been sober for 34 years, and I'm telling you to do this. You could make it into a drinking game. Every time she does it, take a drink of whatever you've got in front of you, because it's funny. You know what's going to happen. So you're turning lemons into lemonade, to be honest. And she's not gonna be able to attack you anymore. It's not gonna affect you as much.
So this is a tangible person that you're sitting next to at Thanksgiving, right? This is But what if they're not? What if you're listening to the news and social media and all the negativity that's out there in the world, and you've decided you hate somebody because of whatever, right? They don't have in this world, you can't, unfortunately, even disagree with somebody. Seems like everyone. I mean, we used to be able to have conversations with people, whether we whether we had the same point of view as them politically or not.
Yeah.
And now you can't do that. If you do, they automatically hate you, and they can't forgive you, it appears, for you having a different point of view than them.
That's right.
This process seems to me like it's a great answer for those situations.
Perfect.
But talk about what that is to not have. I'm not sitting next to Aunt Martha. In fact, I'll probably never meet Aunt Martha, right? Whoever it is I'm angry about, and whoever it is I don't want to forgive, and I need to give forgiveness to, I'll never actually meet that person. But
That's right.
What does that look like that's different in this process, or is there anything different?
Now, first of all, no disrespect to anybody named Martha. Okay. I feel very sorry. I have a friend named Karen, and she makes a lot of fun with her name, but I feel really bad for her because her name is legit Karen. So yeah. She's like, don't be fooling me on my name now. Yeah, it's funny.
I have a cousin Karen, so I get it.
Yeah, I have to turn it into a joke at that point, right?
Yeah.
But this process is perfect because you can forgive. When I say anything, I mean anything. I forgave 1974. True story. Why did I forgive 1974 and the energy around 1974, you ask? It was a horrible year. My parents got a divorce, and I was getting bullied in school, and I tried to commit suicide. So it was a horrible year. So I do my own stuff, and I picked out the other pieces of the memory, and I forgave everything. But this is the brilliant method for anybody who, excuse my language, pisses you off. Could be a politician. It could be a teacher. It could be your neighbor. It could be the grocery bagger. It could be somebody over in Europe. You could be irritated at the war in the Middle East. Okay, forgive the energy around the Middle East. I'm not kidding. Forgive it as a thing. Forgive the energy around the Middle East. Now, is that going to prevent them from going to war? Absolutely not. But it's going to help you. I don't care about the people around you. No disrespect. I don't care about your sibling who says, I have a great relationship with Dad. I don't know what you're talking about. Good for him. You're the one I care about. You're the one I believe. And you're the prisoner. This stuff is living inside your head, and it's making you crazy. So forgive it. Forgive yourself for having this, and forgive the energy around these things. The energy piece is the secret sauce, because that's the piece that's sticking around in your energy field. So you forgive the person and the energy around it. Forgive Lebanon and the energy around Lebanon. Is that going to help Lebanon? Absolutely not. This sure is going to help you enormously, because you're going to stop being angry. Or at least there's levels of this. You can't go, Harlan, from a 10 down to a 1 in one sitting. Not going to happen. But you can get that 10 down to a 9, down to an 8. And over the course of days, weeks, months, you'll be able to actually back everything down. But this is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
So touch a minute on some of the differences between your process and some of the other, you said earlier, forgive and forget, that kind of stuff. But there's other processes out there, right? There's other people that tout other forgiveness processes.
Right.
You know this much better than me, I promise. Maybe I'm asking a question that's not even relevant here, but what are some of the things that other processes are asking you to do that put barriers to forgiveness that yours allows and removes those barriers?
Well, I've searched the internet far and wide, and I have run into a lot of, I can't tell you how many articles and books and stuff that have been written about forgiveness, but I have yet to find a system like mine that says, here's what you do. Here's step A, here's step B, here's step C. Usually they're telling me general stuff, and a lot of them want me to reach out and talk to the person.
Right.
No, not a fan. And what if it's a number 10 unforgivable dumpster fire? It may not be inappropriate. We're not all that unicorn person you were talking about. Most of us aren't. So I don't want to reach out and talk to this person. My method allows you to forgive people in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know you're doing it. Now, I do have a little PSA for everybody. I am a slight overachiever. I've written 12 books and done a lot of stuff in my life. So I am a documented overachiever. So when I came up with this method, I got my list together, just like I'm telling you to, and I must have had 50 people on the list. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to do it before bed because your body heals itself while it's sleeping. We all know that. And this is going to be great. I'm going to forgive all these people, and it's going to do it in one shot, like ripping a Band-Aid off. And I'm going to be a new person in the morning, and this is going to be wonderful. I'm going to feel great. Okay. Didn't work out the way I planned. Remember I was talking about that Japanese water study and how the cells are kind of sludgy? Well, the cells have to go someplace once you forgive. So I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought politely the stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. It was my body just clearing all that ancient anger out of my body. So when you do this work, first of all, what's going to happen? You're probably going to get tired. Most people get tired. Some people get thirsty or hungry, believe it or not. Some people might have to be in the bathroom for a little bit. You didn't eat a pie piece of bad fish. Your body's just clearing itself. And then you've forgiven because you can look at that person's name and there's no emotional charge at all. You don't care. I saw an old business partner's name of mine on Facebook about a few months back, and I didn't care. Saw the name and thought, didn't care. And that's how you know. But my advice is to do this every night and only do 10 to 12 at a time so you don't make yourself sick.
Don't get your list of 50 and be in bed for 3 days.
Now, there are people who are overachievers who are, no matter what I say, are going to do just that. And a friend of my son's did that. And she called up my son and she said, tell your mom she was right. And I was like, yeah, well.
But I can understand, right? But I can understand it, especially if you've been carrying this around. You've been carrying hate, or you've been carrying whatever around, the weights that you've been carrying of unforgiveness. And you come to the realization that that's what it is. And once you do come to that and you hear about this process and getting rid of it, you want to get rid of it, right? You want to, I'm kind of like what you said. I'm going to do all of this right now.
Let's do this, man.
Okay, so I just hit on something right there that I want to ask you about. How do you come, if you've got these things weighing on you, if you've got, you're somewhere in this middle place where you're struggling with whatever, a lot of times people have to talk to somebody before they realize what's going on, right? They know there's something wrong. They're tired, they're angry, they're whatever. They need to talk to somebody. Is there a part of this process where you can do that, or do you still need that intermediary, or does some people still need that intermediary to kind of get to the point to realize that is a lack of forgiveness somewhere in their life that needs them to go through this process? Or is getting to that point part of the process too?
I think it's a mixture of both. Some people need an intermediary. They hire me to lead them through the forgiveness thing verbally, and I'm happy to do that. It's right on my website. But the way I do it is I imagine the person I'm irritated at, whatever, or the memory, or whatever it is. I usually sit in the middle of my bed and I imagine the person is in front of me. And if it's a childhood friend, I imagine them exactly as I remember them. And then if I have to let them have it, and people do, especially with family members, right? Family can really, really mess you up. And let's say it's a family member. And so you literally, you can say anything you want to this family person, whatever you want. I don't care. Let them have it. Say everything you want, and then go through the forgiveness thing. And if you still can't forgive them, then just forgive the energy around the situation yourself, and then try again in 24 hours. If you need somebody to be in front of you while you do this, that's fine. All roads lead to Rome. But this process is going to allow you to walk back the memory. So you'll be able to pick out pieces of the memory. You'll be able, and once you let them have it, don't be surprised that other memories will surface that you've forgotten, because it's like an onion. A lot of people say, well, it didn't work. Yeah, it did. You just removed the first layer. Keep going. There's more there. There's a reason why you haven't gotten that 7 down to a 6, because there's probably more there. And as you forgive, eventually you're going to unearth memories that you probably didn't even know you had, and it's going to come out. A lot of people will journal after they do this. The memories will come up, so they'll write them down, and that's how they work it. Some people will talk to their bestie, their best friend, or their spouse and say, look, this is what happened when it happened. A lot of people are verbal and they have to physically talk to somebody, which is fine. But my whole point is you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, and I think you hit on some things there. I mean, I've talked to people that want to share with me certain things that have happened, but at the same time, I've also talked to folks that just don't know exactly why they're angry, or exactly why they feel this way, or exactly why certain things trigger them. That's the word nowadays, right? Why, sir, I don't understand what happened to me that makes me dislike this, or makes me feel this way when this happens. Yeah, I can't say it's a repressed memory. It may or may not be. It may just be they associate it with something else, right? It's just associated with something else that bothered them, and they're not making that connection. I don't know.
I've often thought it at the end of the day, I had some repressed memories myself with my family. And at the end of the day, did it matter to me if I really figured out exactly what happened? And I finally decided that I didn't care. I really decided I didn't need, now my family's mostly dead, so we'll find out anyways. But I really thought I didn't care. And I thought it was what it was. And the person I was back then, I created that person in order to survive. And I can forgive that person. You know, I'm not a very religious person by any means, but I did go to a private school, and they made me memorize Bible verses every Monday morning, whether I wanted to or not. And there is one Bible verse that gets me to forgiveness. That's how I forgave my parents. Jesus is up on the cross, and he says, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." And what he means by that, in my opinion, is if I'm talking to somebody in the 5th grade, I can't get mad at you because you don't know trigonometry. You haven't learned it yet. My parents did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. Was it good enough? Of course not. But they did their best. And if I combine that with some mental gymnastics that Simone Biles could do, then I think eventually I got to forgive them. There's another passage that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. It does not say go have lunch in the valley. It doesn't say build a house in the valley. It doesn't say make some friends and really settle in that valley. It says walk through the darn thing. That's what this method is going to allow you to do.
So in contrast, I very much am a religious person and very, very much do believe that we are told to forgive.
Absolutely, we are. Jesus said we must forgive 70 times 7. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what he said.
We've been forgiven, and
yep.
So down that pathway. Some of the podcasts, as my listeners know, do turn into a revival. I'm not going to say that they don't. It does happen. I'm not trying to take us down that path today, but certainly forgiveness is a biblical philosophy as well. And I really don't think that it's any easier for someone who is a follower of Christ to forgive than it is for someone who is not.
It's the same for everybody. We all have a trouble with it. We all have trouble forgiving ourselves. If it's a really big something, it's hard to forgive yourself because you think you did something wrong. You hurt something. You said something, which is why I'm saying this method is to forgive other pieces of the memory. Forgive it 70 times 7. How many times do we have to do this? Well, you're not, as I said before, you're not going to get a 10 down to a 1 overnight. You're going to have to do this a bunch of times. And as you're doing it, other memories are going to come up, which might make you cry. This is not an easy process. Forgiveness is not easy. Now, in the beginning, with the 1s, 2s, and 3s, the easy people, yeah, it's easy. Come on. You can forgive those people. Come on, you can. The person in church who cut you off when you wanted to sit in that pew. Come on, you can forgive these people. It's easy. It's when we get into the higher numbers that it starts to trip us up. And that's what I want you to be. I want you to be nice to yourself and just understand it's a process and allow yourself to go through it. Because at the end of the day, I'm only asking you to go back to your past once, and then you never have to go back there anymore.
So how does this process work real time? Okay, stay with me here. Driving down the road and someone cuts me off right now. Right, it's happening right now. And what I want to do is scream at them, yell at them, tell them they're number one. All of those different things. What do I need to do right then? Right then, when this happens, to head this off, what do I need to do?
Now, just as a PSA, I live with an Italian from Hoboken, so don't worry about it. I've heard things. It's like living with an extra from The Sopranos, come on. I'm Italian by choice. Now, if you're driving down the road, and this has actually happened to me, and I was driving down the road, somebody cut me off, and I got angry. So what I always do personally is I will say, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. I will literally just say it 100 freaking times. Do I mean it? Absolutely not. But I'm saying it to remind myself. And then I'll pick up when it's safe. I'll pull over wherever I get to where I'm going. I tend to email myself stuff that I want to remember. So I'll just jot a little note about the situation. And when I get home that evening, before I go to bed, I will add them to my forgiveness list, and I will properly forgive them once I get home. But in the moment, I will say, I forgive them. I forgive them. I didn't mean it, but it kind of takes the energy out. It reminds me of the process. It reminds me that I need to be filled with gratitude. It reminds me that I'm only human, and it kind of takes the edge off.
It does.
That's how I'm doing.
What obviously I didn't know about this process and saying I forgive you. What I attempt to do, I'm not saying I'm always successful. What I attempt to do in these situations is remind myself that I don't know what's happening in this person's life.
Exactly. Because you don't
know. They truly may not have even saw me. They truly may be so preoccupied with something that's going on. Maybe they have a child in the back seat, just threw a rattler and hit him in the head. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they're in a hurry because they just found out a loved one has been in an accident or something else. And how is my anger towards them helping me or having any effect on them, quite honestly? As you mentioned earlier, now they're living in my head. Now they're living rent-free in my head, causing me distress.
Yep.
Exactly. And I'm not doing anything to them at all.
No.
Unless I go completely ballistic and decide I'm going to ram into them or something, which I'm not going to do. That's just ridiculous. But people do it, right? We obviously hear about road rage things, and most of the time we hear about road rage, it was almost nothing. It was such a minor little thing. But so let me get your thoughts on this then. When these things build up, when we don't have forgiveness, and we let these build up on us, and we have this angry personality, I guess, do you believe that can be the cause of things like that, like road rage and other things, just the buildup of those things? That what happened now really had nothing to do with anything except they finally just bowled over.
It was the tip of the iceberg. It was that last push that just pushed them over the edge. And we could be talking about years of abuse and years of anger and years of having to deal with Aunt Martha. And, it's just that little thing that finally sets you off over the edge. Anybody who's raised kids, I've raised 2 sons. They're grown and off now. But back in the day, you've got these kids, you've got these boys, you're trying, when they're young, you're just trying to keep them alive. That's really all it is.
It really is.
Keep your boys alive and out of the emergency room. That's all you're trying to do. And at the end of the day, it's that last thing. I mean, you just yell at them, and you're not really angry at what they did particularly, but you've just had this enormous day, and you just lose your you-know-what. It happens. It happens. We are only human. The reason forgiveness, you'll never be finished with the process, is because humans irritate other humans. It's part of our species. It's always going to be here. It's a question of just paying attention and catching yourself in the moment and being kind, in that moment, catching yourself and getting a cup of coffee, or, usually I used to tell my sons, I said, you need to give me a timeout, and I'm going to go off for like 3 minutes, and I'll come back better. My older son, who was always the lawyer for the little one, don't know why, used to look at his brother and say, you need to give mom time or it's going to get really bad for us. He's actually, no surprise, he's actually in federal law enforcement now, so that shouldn't shock anybody. But, it's a question of, if you do have the forgiving the little things in your life, I know you don't think it's going to help, but it does, because you're moving that dial back a little bit and things aren't going to be as bad. Now, you might lose friends and family as you go through this process because you're changing. You're turning into something that's more positive and less negative. And they probably like the negative person because it takes the edge off them. They kind of like you the way you are. They want you to be negative, right? They don't want you to succeed. So they try and sabotage you, which sucks. Excuse my language, but it does. So, more other people will come into your life. Nature abhors a vacuum. So if you've got a brand new field, eventually nature is going to fill it with trees and all these other things. Your life is the same. Some people will leave, other people will come in. When I came down with breast cancer, I had a ton of people that I called jackrabbits. And I guess they couldn't take cancer. I don't know. They were very, very close friends of mine, and they took off. I still have yet to hear from them. And I've been cancer-free for 12 years. However, I had other people come into my life that are still with me to this day. So and if you're living with a narcissistic number 10 dumpster fire, I think I can speak for Harlan when I say I think you need to leave that situation as fast as you can. And then when you're able, forgive the situation.
I have a guest that was in a narcissistic relationship, Dana Diaz, and I've actually got her scheduled to be on again because she has released a book about her pathway through narcissistic relationships through her whole life. And, she talked about forgiveness. She talked about those things, and it in very similar way to what you're talking about. She hasn't forgotten these things. She hasn't.
You never will.
What happened to her and the way she was treated. But she was able to move forward because she was able to deal with those and forgive herself first of all.
Right.
Because she felt like for forever and ever, because that's what a narcissist does, right? It's always your fault.
Yeah.
It's always
I had to deal with a narcissist too in my family, and it's incredibly hard. And narcissists always have a tendency to be number 10s. They're almost unforgivable. And it's walking away from them is the hardest thing you'll ever do because they're narcissistic, and it's kind of the illness that they have, isn't it? Yeah. But narcissists are a very unique breed of cat, and it's hard, like really hard. But it's not your fault. And this is mostly to the women. I don't know why, Harlan, this is mostly a woman thing and not a man. Yes. But I have to say, it's not your fault, and we believe you.
Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. It does seem like that women get taught this. Not that men don't, but that women get in this situation. I think a lot of times when men get caught in it, this is weirdly weird, but it's in a work relationship where they're getting beat up by a superior, male or female. It doesn't make any difference. But it's in a work environment where they're as we would say back in the day, they're the whipping boy. So they're the ones that always have to take it. It's always their fault. They have to have the scapegoat. They have to have that person, and they fall into that, and then they start believing that about themselves.
Yeah, and the thing about believing, you might grew up in a family like that, and if everybody constantly thinks that you are a blank up, eventually in your head, at least me, I thought, well, everybody thinks that I'm messing up. I might as well mess up, and they think I wasn't doing it, to be honest with you, because I wasn't. I was a good kid. But at one point I thought, well, they think I'm a bad kid, so I might as well. Obviously, that's what they want. It was very warped thinking, but I was a kid, so 1 and 1 didn't necessarily make 2 back in those days. But I did figure it out, and I had some people who pulled me out and got me out. But it's hard when you're the whipping boy or the whipping girl. It's awful. It's awful. It is. And you think it's your fault. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
My wife, probably not to the extent that you went through it, but my wife was in a similar thing. Her family and extended family, she was the crazy child. She was the runaround, going crazy, running amok, whatever.
The rebel? I'm proud of being the rebel now. I'm everybody's crazy aunt, and I'm proud of it. And back in the day, I was not. But now I actually looked at my mother once and I said, "Did you bring home the wrong baby from the hospital?" You sure that I'm yours? So I wasn't like anybody else in my family. And, over the years, I got proud of being the rebel. But we create these personas to get ourselves through that particular trauma. So when you are beating yourself up and you are your number 10, what you can do is, what I did is I looked at that Katharine as a separate person because I'm not that person anymore. I'm a completely different Katharine now. So I looked at that young Katharine and teenage Katharine and 20-year-old Katharine and all those memories, and I can forgive that kid because she did the best that she could with the tools that she had. I can forgive that kid. I can forgive the energy around that kid. I can feel sorry for that kid. I could throw love at that kid. And that's how I forgave myself as the years went on. And do I still call myself the rebel? Yeah, well, yeah. People tell me I can't do something. I may not have wanted to do it before, but now I want to do it just to stick it to you. I kind of have that. But it didn't work out with my sons because my older son is really, really smart. And he figured that out at a young age and used that against me. Not fair. He's smart for his own good.
Yeah, that it's funny what your children pick up from you, and then what they don't.
Yeah.
Right? It's very interesting. And my daughter is not actually like me or my wife, either one, but she's very much like my sister.
Oh, there you go.
Enough, right? So it's
genetics are a funny thing. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, you're right. Genetics are a funny thing. In fact, so much like my sister, I have called her my sister's name sometime whenever we're just random and she does something. And my sister's name is Dawn and my daughter's name is Ilana. And so nowhere close. It's not like there's anywhere close to the same name. And I'll be like, Dawn, are you Ilana? Really?
And I bet your sister loved it.
Oh, she thinks it's the funniest thing in the world, right? She's like, yeah, I'm back to haunt you, brother.
Deserved it. This is your karma, brother. This,
Yes.
I have no sympathy for you whatsoever.
And my younger sister on top of that. So, she's like, okay, everything that's happening to you, you get to live through it twice. Isn't this awesome?
Yeah, exactly. Siblings are fun.
Siblings are fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been very entertaining and very enlightening. You have the book. Talk a little bit about the book, and then what, I obviously folks can get the step-by-step process, but what are some other things in the book people can expect to see and hear about?
Well, in the book, I have the step-by-step process, and I'm going to explain everything. There's a whole chapter on science. I found a couple studies to back up the energy and what I'm saying. There's also worksheets to help you out. But there's a bunch of exercises in there that's going to really help. Sometimes it's very hard for people to sit down and write their list. So one of the things I like to tell people is to go somewhere quiet. Your cell phone turns off, right? There's an off button on there, right? I said this to somebody recently, and the color left from the girl's face. I'm not kidding. Left from the girl's face. She said, oh, no, I can't turn. I said, okay, put it on silent. I don't want it to beep or buzz or hop. Just put it on silent if this really triggers you, okay? But I want your kids to be away, just somewhere where you can be quiet. And whatever names form in your head, write them down. And then I want you to number them from 1 to 10. And there's some exercises in the book that will help you to do that. But it's a very short book. It's the first of 3. I sent the book to my bestie who edited for me, and she took one look at it and she said, you've written 3 books, not 1, because she very correctly said that people don't have that great of attention span anymore. So it's short and sweet and to the point, and I do have the audio book available because I know not everybody wants to read.
Yeah, that's I know a lot of people that they'll say, I'm waiting for the audio to come out.
Yeah. They can't do that. The audiobook's already out. My younger son and I produced it. Audiobooks are not as easy to do as you would think. It's a little more to it than just reading into a microphone, I discovered. We didn't kill each other. The kid is still alive, and we both survived it. So there you go.
And, it's interesting you say that because I have talked to other people who wrote books, and they simply could not do it. They could not do their own voice thing. They had to hire someone to do it. They've been on podcasts, so it's not like they couldn't speak. They just said, as I was reading the book, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Yeah. And I said, okay, I get that. I typically don't watch my own videos or listen to my own podcast. I was already there.
Yeah. Now I did it with my son, and he had me in my closet because the sound bounced off the clothes, which was very smart. And he had a special filter on my microphone, and he taught me how to talk so you don't make all the mouth noises, which you would be amazed at how many mouth noises you make. It's a different thing. It's not as easy as people would think. So when you pay somebody to read your book, they charge that amount of money for a reason, because it's hard. It's not easy.
That's a good point. That is actually a very good point. All right. So, folks, the name of the book is The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power, of course, by Katharine Giovanni. And you can go out to Katharine's website, katharinegiovanni.com, to learn about the book, buy the book, right? You can purchase the book directly from the site there. And you can also go and see other podcasts that she's been on. I saw that on here where you've got a list of a number of other places where you have done podcast on, including, I'm sure you talk about some of the same things, but you have a much wider scope of knowledge than that over the years that you have been. Plus, obviously, not all 12 of your books are about this either. So you talk about a number of different things in those other books as well. All of that is available right here on her website. I was looking at some of the things you talk about, including childhood trauma and how the recovery process that children can go through. So a lot of different things for you folks to check out there at her website. If this wasn't something that necessarily struck a chord with you, she is definitely an expert in lots of other fields as well. So go out and check that out, because I promise there is a lot to look at and to dive into there. Katharine, thank you so much for being with us today. You've certainly given me a lot to think about as well. Any closing comments you'd like to leave with the audience?
Don't be scared of the process. It works. And don't be scared to lose your story, because there's a whole world out there that you don't even know is there. And taking the local train will get you from point A to point B, but the express, it's a lot less painful.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Love and forgiveness, folks. Love and forgiveness. It'll always take you further than hate. That if you don't take away anything else today, take away those inspiring words that she gave us earlier. Welcome once again to everything in your new life of forgiveness. I love it. I love it. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. Don't forget, if you want to listen to our other live podcast every month, we dive into the healthcare world on why does healthcare suck? That's right. Why does healthcare suck? Every month we dive into different parts of the crazy U.S. healthcare system, helping you to avoid the pitfalls and the hurdles that are part of that U.S. healthcare system. Join us across multiple different platforms. You can also go out to yourinsuranceyyourchoice.com and find out when the next episode is available. Thanks again for being with us. We'll catch you next time on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. We are out of here.